Well, I mean, one thing I think that also people, when they look at Trump, kind of fail to grasp, even though Trump, says things in a more extreme way, it's not like his actual policies are that different than what the rest of the Republicans are pushing forward. I mean, Jeb, when the refugee thing is happening with Syria, was saying, hey, we should only let Christian refugees in. Ben Carson thinks Muslims shouldn't be president of the United States. So it's not like all these other candidates are like, oh no, they're like a complete 180 from Donald Trump. He just says it in a more blatantly racist way, I suppose. And I think that's kind of what's more shocking. It's not actually that the policies are necessarily that different. It's just that his rhetoric is so, I guess, more openly racist, I suppose.
Right. And I did a very big piece called Donald Trump and the F word for the Spectator.
Yeah.
And the point I made there is that every other previous kind of titular head of the Republican Party or Republican frontrunner, whether it was Reagan refusing to support a initiative in 1978 to ban gay teachers in California at a time that gays were being beaten up in the streets, or George W. Bush going to a mosque the week after 9/11 and declaring that Islam is the religion of peace. Republican leaders have tended to draw a pretty strong barrier against a certain kind of level of demagoguery. I mean, we all know they're demagogues, right? And we all know that they're exploiting the electorate's fears. But these guys always knew that they were playing with fire, and there were certain kind of lines that you did not cross, because the demonic energies in a democracy can be absolutely awful and terrible. This is Weimar Germany stuff. And Donald Trump doesn't have that filter. And that, again, is something new that we're seeing among, again, the Republican leadership. We see, crazy, insane Republican state senators in all periods, or, Democratic congressmen in the 50s and 60s in the South, saying insane things like Martin Luther King was, plotting riots with the Communist Party. But the idea is this guy is the leader of the Republican Party now.
Another thing I want to talk about, you actually did an interview you posted that you were interviewed by NPR, and I kind of want to bring this into Republicans as well, and that's sort of the concept of political lying, because again, Donald Trump has been lying pretty much constantly in here. So is lying getting worse, and getting away with lying, is that actually getting worse in America, historically speaking?
Well, I mean, there's no lie worse in American history than George W. Bush and Dick Cheney creating a conspiracy to spread the lie that Saddam Hussein weapons of mass destruction, so he had to go to war against it. I mean, that's kind of the gold standard. Right. But what we're seeing with Trump is, again, something that we have to point to the media for. The standard of both sides do it, you can't call out one side without calling the other side, has become so institutionalized in the face of a guy who, has absolutely no respect for the truth whatsoever. In fact, Jeet Heer, the wonderful writer in The New Republic, said, no, he's not a liar, because liars have respect for the truth and know they're lying. He's actually closer to what that one philosophy professor calls a bullshitter. Remember that? Harry Frankfurt, I think his name is. He wrote a book called Bullshit. And he said a bullshitter just doesn't even care what's true. He'll just completely make things up. So you get this guy who lies in a qualitatively and quantitatively different way, and yet he still gets to go on the Sunday shows and never get challenged on anything. And that's on the press. And that's why I say, the press just has to abandon this paradigm that's, traducing their duty to tell the truth without fear or favor.